I, 34 male, have been married to my wife, 32, for 5 years, and we have 3 children. A few months ago, I found out from my wife's text that she'd been cheating on me, and I confronted her about it. She confessed to it and gave me an entire breakdown of her affair, which lasted for a month. I was devastated and asked her why. She gave no excuses for it and said she had caught feelings for her affair partner, which was wrong, and she'd acted on them. He was her co-worker. I asked her if I lacked anything and she said no, and she was in tears. I needed a few days to process this. My wife gave me space, but she asked me many times to reconsider divorce because it would uproot the lives of our children. She said she would do anything I wanted for the rest of my life. After a week, I decided that I needed only one thing from my wife to completely forgive her, and that was to call each and every one of her friends and family and confess to her affair. I told her that was my only condition. She was hesitant and asked me if I could reconsider the condition because this would ruin many of her friendships and family relationships. Still, I told her this was what I needed as a part of my forgiveness process, and that if she didn't do this, I was going to start looking for a divorce lawyer. Over the next week, my wife made a phone call to all of her friends, parents, grandparents, siblings, uncles, aunts, pretty much anyone she knew, and confessed to her affair. It was hurtful and there was a lot of crying. My wife was hurled with a lot of shouting. By the week's end, my wife had called everyone I had wanted her to call. It's been a few months and my wife and I have a strong relationship now. However, my wife has pretty much become isolated from her friends and a lot of her family. This has hurt her a lot and she spends a lot of nights crying, but she says this was worth it for our relationship and for our children. Am I the idiot for making my wife confess to all her friends and family that she cheated on me if she didn't want a divorce? To save the marriage, I had to destroy it. Truth is essential, but there's no way this level of public disclosure helps anything. The marriage won't last. You are the idiot. Even if it didn't last, he made sure that her family and friends knew that she was a cheat. Doesn't matter what happens next, everyone important to her now knows not to trust her because she broke the trust in her marriage. Sounds like a win for OP either way. He's not the idiot. Win? LOL, there are no winners here. His wife cheated. His wife is now depressed with no friends or family. Everyone knows she cheated and he's an idiot. She broke his trust. He broke her completely. This is no win for OP. Just one messed up family with no trust or proper love to grow their children in. What a hot mess. Poor children. Yes, exactly. I find it more embarrassing for him that he made her call everyone and tell them, thinking that would add something positive to the outcome. That was done as punishment to ensure that other people dished the punishment that he didn't have the backbone to dish. This was just the beginning of the end. OP, I feel like that's embarrassing for you too. You stayed with a cheating spouse. Everyone's the idiot. I hate cheaters, but I don't understand what you're trying to do here. I guarantee you your relationship is not stronger than ever. The public humiliation you put her through will stay with her until she explodes. I just don't know what you're trying to do here. Relationship stronger than ever, but she cries at night. OP has a dent in his skull. Honestly, I don't understand how this helped you forgive her. Did you want to see her suffer or know that ultimately there are actions to her consequences? You've ruined her relationship with friends and family when I doubt it helped you forgive. She is now effectively on her own. She didn't cheat on those individuals. She cheated on you. You've invited others into your relationship with this condition, and as a result, you both look incredibly foolish. I know marriages that seem to last out of spite. Maybe this will be one of those. I've been with my husband for 8 years. He has a young teen daughter, my stepdaughter. I have a teen son, a tween son, and my husband and I have an infant daughter together. Prior to my giving birth, life was pretty smooth sailing. We did family trips often, had Sunday family night, and designated one-on-one time with each of the kids, except my oldest, who's determined he's too cool for us, LOL. But if he wanted, it was always available. There were a few fights between the kids, but nothing major, and they were usually resolved within minutes. Since I had the baby, everything has gone downhill. My home has become a war zone between my youngest son and my stepdaughter. They're physically fighting each other constantly, 90% of the time with my stepdaughter instigating. She knows my son has ASD and ADHD and doesn't like being touched, so she'll go up to him and poke him continuously, even after being told to stop, and then calls him psycho when he flips out. He can sometimes have a bit of a violent rage, which doctors say is common with ADHD. But it's literally on purpose. She purposely provokes him to a point where my husband and I have told her at least 8 times that she's to stay away from him entirely for the rest of the day. I've noticed lately that my youngest son has been getting incredibly emotional lately. He screams at me when I try to get him to talk about it. It's been a huge thing and I've been over the top stressed out. He's in therapy, behavioral, OT and regular therapy. His stepdaughter is also in therapy. Well, his behavioral therapist opened up to me about 2 weeks back, saying that she was concerned about my son and asked specifically about how much influence my stepdaughter is also in therapy has over my son. She said a lot of stuff has been said in therapy. I won't go into extreme detail, but it was enough to warrant a conversation with my husband and had him cracking down on what his daughter was saying to my son. Eventually, he grounded her for that and something else, which made it worse. This morning around 6 a.m, school vacation, my son just started flipping out over nothing. I tried talking to him and he told me, "Shut up, you never even loved me anyway." I asked him what he was talking about and he just screamed at me to shut up again. My stepdaughter is also in therapy. She was at the table eating cereal and said, "Get used to it. Like I told you, nobody loves middle kids. You should just move out now." He storms off to his room. I asked her if she was the reason why he was acting like this morning and she said, "No, you are. I didn't make him a middle kid. All I did was explain to him that he will never be loved again, but I didn't make that happen. You did." She is also a middle child in both households, so she talks about middle child syndrome often. My husband walked in, told his daughter to go to her room and took her phone again. He went to talk to me and apologize, but I just kind of cut him off and said, "I actually can't do this anymore. Your daughter is destroying my son's life and making him think that I hate him, and I'm starting to hate that kid to the point where I can't be near her. So I'm going to leave. I would like you and your kid out of my home within 2 months. I own the property and have owned it for 15 years. He's trying to argue that this can be fixed, but it's really come to a point where I hate his child and don't want her near my son at all. She's great with the baby, or me. He says he can't believe I'm throwing us away over something that can be fixed." Not the idiot. Maybe it can be fixed, but it cannot be fixed while that kid is in your home. A young teen is old enough to understand bullying. It's a really sad situation, but you do need to protect your children, and it seems that the daughter's therapy isn't helping her in meaningful ways. Her goal might be to become an only child again. I wouldn't be surprised. Based on what she's saying to the son and how she talks about being a middle child, I smell some very strong projection. Honestly, as much as I feel for your stepdaughter because she's struggling, you're being a good mom, and you're at your wit's end with a newborn. You are the idiot. Your husband needs to take his daughter and go at once. She is torturing your son physically, mentally, and emotionally. Don't cause more trauma by uprooting all of your children, even temporarily. He can get a hotel until he finds a place, but he needs to get her out of your house. Now. The fact that he's trying to blame you for what his daughter has done to your son is heinous. She's very clearly in need of therapy herself, but he can organize that for her from a safe place where she isn't using your son as a metaphorical punching bag to relieve herself of her own pain. I, 46 male, have 2 children, Fia, a young female teen, and Kale, a male tween. Their mom died 5 years ago in a car crash. We'd been married at the time, but only legally. For the last 3 years of her life, we were pretending to still be together, and we stayed married, but it was all pretending for the kids. We didn't want to divorce for our kids' sake. Both of us came from divorced families and what I consider broken homes because of how badly our parents handled the divorces. We didn't want that for the kids. We feared we couldn't do better. The end result was us hating each other. It ran deep, too. I regret that now. The last words we exchanged were not kind. Our kids deserve better than that. Better than having parents who hated each other because we were so afraid to divorce. So after she died, I was determined to let go of all that hate, and I was determined to make sure the kids knew they were loved by both parents and were not burdened by the issues we'd had. Their mom and dad both loved them. I truly believe their mom's love still exists in them, and they deserve to know that love. That was what I focused on, so I saved everything of hers for them. It's all stored safely for them one day, and a couple of years after she died, I removed most of the photos of our married life, but I let the kids keep 2 photos of their choices out in the open in common areas of the house. The rest are either in their room or stored for them with the rest of her stuff. My kids love and miss their mom so much, and it brings them comfort to have her photos out. I make sure they can always talk about her or ask questions. They also have a very close relationship with the 3 siblings she spoke to. Above all, this is my children's home, and I make sure it always feels that way. When I met my wife, I remarried last year, I told her about the photos and told her that a partner of mine needed to accept them. She did. We got married. Nobody has taken the photos of my kids and their mom down. But my in-laws do have a problem, and maybe they're speaking on behalf of my wife and she's not open. I'm still figuring that out. They were staying with us at the weekend, and during dinner, they questioned my wife about keeping the photos out when my wife now lives with us. My kids said they like having photos of their mom they can see in the house. My in-laws began to say that it was inconsiderate toward my wife and they shouldn't be in common areas. When I stepped in and shut them down, I told them that this was still my children's home too, and part of that was displaying photos of their mom in their home where they could be seen. I told them it didn't need to be discussed more. The following day, my in-laws said I had no reason to be so rude, and I had an unhealthy attachment to keeping their mom present in their lives when she was dead. They told me they should be allowed to question things about their daughter's home, and I overreacted. Am I the idiot? How dare you allow your children to keep pictures of their mom around? Don't they know that only your wife matters? Not the idiot. Your in-laws can go kick rocks. Their love for their daughter doesn't outweigh your children's love for their mother. There's room for both women. Your wife should have shut that ish down herself. The only reason I can think of for her not doing it is that it bothers her. So instead of talking to the in-laws, speak to her and set the record straight. If she says it doesn't bother her, she should speak to her family about their stupid comments. If it bothers her, you need to talk to her and reaffirm the point you made years ago and ensure she accepts it and doesn't question it anymore. Then, make her shut her family down about it. Bringing that subject up in front of the kids is an idiot move by her family, and you were 100% right in telling them off. My wife, 30, and I, 42, have 2 children, a male teen and a female toddler. I met my wife when she was a student in a trades program I used to teach at. She was 20 and working her butt off to support herself and her son. I helped her with her studies, and when she left school I wished her well. She returned for her 2nd and then 3rd year of instruction. I literally watched her go from someone who was just barely an adult to a truly competent tradesperson. I helped her get a job with a company that trusts me to give recommendations for employees who have a future. She came back to see me when she got her white hat. That means she was given a foreman position. She came by to thank me for the help. I told her that she did everything herself and all I did was point her in the right direction. We went for coffee though, then a couple of lunches, then dinner, and so on. We got married about a year later, and 2 years after that, our daughter was born. She returned to work and I took a job with the company as a QC. There is a lot of backstory, but it is relevant. My ex-wife is my mom's and dad's favourite person. They like her more than they like me, even after she divorced me because I stuck with teaching instead of making bank in the field. I've seen hundreds of relationships fall apart in my trade because the guy is never home. I'm the only guy I know in the trades whose wife left him because he was home too much. She divorced me 3 years before I met my wife, but my parents still invite her for family stuff. She ended up marrying a teacher like herself, and they seem happy. Maybe it was just me she didn't want to be around. We had no kids together. So my dad retired from his big deal job and my mom had a big party for him. She said it would be boring when she invited me and I didn't need to bring my son. She has known him since he was a tween and it still bugs her that she's not biologically mine. I asked if my nieces and nephews were coming and she said yes. I asked if my daughter was invited and she said yes. I said I would talk to my wife about it and let her know. I didn't bother. Anywhere my kid is not welcome, I'm not going to. I took my family to Legoland that weekend instead. My son loves Lego and my daughter loves the bright colours. My mom was angry that we didn't go. She told everyone I chose to spoil my kids instead of celebrating my father with family. I told my brothers, sisters and dad that she tried to convince me not to bring my son. They all lost it on her. Now she's crying because everyone is mad at her for excluding my son and causing me to skip my dad's party. I would have kept my mouth shut if she'd kept my name out of her mouth. My family, including my dad, have accepted my son into the family. My mom is the only one that has a problem with me adopting him. She's still mad I didn't make it work with my ex. I didn't just show up with my entire family or tell everyone ahead of time why I wouldn't be there because I didn't want a scene at my dad's party. I would rather be the inconsiderate jerk who goes on vacation than wreck a family event. I also didn't want to expose my son to my mom and her passive-aggressive BS. She thinks that I was mean for exposing her. I just wanted a nice stress-free weekend with my family. Not the idiot. If she felt her reasoning for excluding your son was reasonable and justified, then what is the problem with telling the other members of the family? She's upset because she knows she was in the wrong and got busted. You did the right thing. I too would have preferred to go to Legoland rather than an uncomfortable family situation where you don't feel welcome. It so clearly was not about not having people's kids at the party, it was just about excluding him because he's not blood, and if I'm reading between the lines correctly, probably also has a healthy helping of moral shame for divorcing your former wife and marrying a new woman who had a kid so young. No kid deserves to be treated this way, especially not a teenager when things are already so hard emotionally. You did the right thing. Side note, if it were me, I'd be keeping both kids away from her from now on. She doesn't get to pick and choose her grandkids, and I wouldn't want to expose either of my children to her passive-aggressive behavior. Also, I talked with my wife about how she's been treated at family functions in the past because I'd be willing to bet there's been a lot of questionable behavior there too.